Welcome back to another episode of InHaus Podcast. We've got Jason Pittenger with us today. Jason,
hello. Welcome.
Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah,
Jason
great to be here.
Jason brought a cool lens.
Oh yes, let me demonstrate.
Oh, dude,
it's a Canon.
I mean, for all of those just listening in, you have no
It's a
idea what I'm
Canon.
pointing to.
Oh,
It's
that's true.
basically a mug that's designed to look like a Canon camera zoom lens, and it's almost indistinguishable from the real thing.
It's
I
impressive.
I honestly didn't know that you had a mug this morning. So like when you like put it out to pour, I was like, "What are you doing?" You're like,
Can you put coffee in my lens, please?
I thought you had brought your camera and had your lens out separately.
"That's
So
what
I was
I
like,
thought."
oh.
Yeah.
See, I like to make the joke. It helps me focus.
Yeah.
Doom.
Oh, nice.
Solid.
Solid.
That is clever. Did you come up with that?
I don't know if I want to
It
admit
was
to that.
It was Natalie, wasn't it?
No, I came up with that, but I'm just not sure if I want to admit to that. But I guess it's too late now.
Oh,
I
man.
love jokes where it's like, there's a joke in there somewhere, but you have to find it. You know what I mean?
Like all the ingredients are there. You just kind of got to mix it
Yeah,
and bake
you
it.
gotta
and-
like.
It's like a
put it
puzzle.
together. Yeah, definitely. Somebody said something. I'm gonna forget the other night at small group that they were like, no, I'm not gonna be able to come up with it. It was funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just know that it was funny.
You had to
I'm-
be
I'm-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to be there for sure.
And it's funny too when like someone says something, another person says something, and you're almost that connecting piece,
Mhm.
and you're trying to juggle to get it
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
in
Together.
time so that it's relevant in the conversation.
That's
Right.
true.
I mean,
That's-
like you come back 20 minutes later. Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
It's not funny anymore.
timing.
Dude, you are way late.
Comedy's
Yeah.
all about timing.
Yeah.
Do you
But-
shoot? I know you do pictures. You do a lot of photography stuff, or at
Not,
least you used to.
yes, I used to.
Okay.
I just really haven't done it a whole lot.
Okay.
I was exclusively film,
Uh-huh.
and actually kind of still am, other than like my cell phone.
Sure.
For sure.
And it just got expensive.
Yeah. No
It
kidding.
is an expensive thing.
Mhm.
I mean, like I've got all the equipment I'd need to do it. I don't have like a darkroom or anything like that, but
Mhm.
it's $7-8 for a roll of film, and then you got to find somewhere to mail it in to get it processed, and
Mhm.
it's
Wow.
like you're getting to like $15-20 round trip for a roll of film. It just
Yeah.
gets a little expensive.
And that's just 35 millimeter, right?
Right.
If you're gonna do like something weird, you know what I mean, or something
You need
older,
more.
you need.
Yeah, I used to have a camera that shot 4" by 5" sheet.
Okay, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 years ago, that was $5 a shot.
Okay, I bet.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that's
So-
crazy.
I think I took a total of 4 shots with that camera and then sold the camera.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh my
Nice.
gosh.
Yeah. And do people still develop that somewhere?
There's still places.
Okay.
I
You
mean,
have to travel for that, or
I think for the long time, I think Hollywood's going to keep it around. Like
Mhm.
Christopher Nolan still shoots films, so
Sure.
there's always going to be some processing.
Sure.
But
as long as he's around.
yeah, as long as he's around. But it's getting fewer and farther between. You can't
For
go
sure.
to Walgreens anymore for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I do know there's a place in St. Charles, and I think my dad has worked with them where he has a dark room and
Oh yeah.
develops film, and I think is a photographer himself too, and shoots primarily on film.
We
So
should reach out. We should have him on.
yeah, I know nothing
Everybody
about
that
it.
Don't know
Titus
anything.
likes.
Yeah.
This is what this is turning into. Just people that Titus like on the podcast.
That's okay.
All right.
I
I'm glad I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Welcome. You made the cut.
Yes.
I bought a roll of film from you during quarantine, during
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
Did you ever shoot it? black
black and white. Yes, but I haven't developed it.
Okay.
It's sitting in the case, ready for me to.
That was one of the 3200 speed. Okay.
Yeah, black and white. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you shoot it at 3200?
I did not. I shot it at. I forget what the ratio was. I followed your instruction though about the ISO and it being a little more grainy if it was pushed
Oh,
to that.
yeah.
So
Oh, is that the camera that you have that's not normal camera that you usually shoot with?
Like the Olympus.
yes, I have an Olympus OM10 that I shoot on, and then I have a Canon AE1 program that I shoot on.
It's a nice camera.
So like, just kind of fun little. They didn't cost me too much, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to shoot on film, so I appreciate it. I get the.
What's the Nikon that you have in your room?
Oh, it's a cheap DSLR. That's nothing
3200, something like
3600, I think. But nothing special.
that. We'll get a big boy camera someday.
I
We'll do it.
shot on.
Well, I mean, if you ever feel like shooting Nikon, I've got a bunch of Nikon, of course, film.
film, yeah,
Oh,
but nice.
But yeah, but
Well,
nice.
Nice 20 years ago, kind of
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
for sure.
Hey,
That's
there's
so
something
weird.
about vintage feel, isn't there?
not
Yeah, that's why
Nikon
I've got the-
vintage.
Nikon.
Hey, no, come on now. Don't hate on Nikon. You see, I forget, like, I've got cameras older than you.
That's true.
That's impressive.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I'm not trying to insult your age.
I know.
But it's like, when you think of vintage, you're probably thinking of, like, the early 2000s DSLR. Where
Sure.
it's like they're just starting to come out. They're
Yeah.
not really that good.
Right.
But, you know,
But you were like, "This is cool. This is new." Still, a few years ago, right?
yeah.
yeah.
So, like, one of the cameras I have was given to me by my brother-in-law. It's the Nikon F5.
Okay.
It's considered it was used by professionals.
Sweet.
Oh, really?
So I
Yeah.
mean, it's a big. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll shoot 8 frames a second
Wow.
on
Oh
film.
my
Impressive.
goodness.
But that means
Super
like on a
impressive.
roll of film, you're done. You're
Yeah,
done with the
you're
roll in
done.
3 seconds.
You're
Oh,
done,
yeah,
you're
it's
done
like,
right
what do you
away.
But yeah,
They
so
should make a mount. Do they do that? They make like a mount that you could put a couple, like a drum gun, you know? but for rolls of film.
not for the F5. But I think it was the F4. They made
That's
a
good.
1,000 shot drum.
Okay.
You could do
See?
for it.
I knew something
That's
would come up with
crazy.
it. I couldn't have been the
in
first
your
one.
heart, you do.
I couldn't have been the first one.
But I think they made like 2 of them. So good luck finding one.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
Bummer. That's okay.
Road trip.
Next time. Road trip. InHaus takes on the road. We're going to do that. We're going to do that at some point.
We've been talking about road tripping since the start of season 2, and we
Mhm.
just haven't.
Well, see, you can couple that with your random podcast idea. Like, just drive around and stop at gas
Oh, yeah.
stations. You know what? Do
Talk
like
to
a
people.
5-minute segment at every gas station.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
that'd be kind of
Keep
cool.
it rolling.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're at Gary,
We're-
Indiana.
Hey guys, we're at a random truck stop, and
No,
I'm
Hey,
here
guys.
with.
We're somewhere in Kentucky.
I don't actually know how to pronounce this town's name.
I'm a little bit worried, but
I thought I'd just capture this in case the police need it for evidence.
that'd be super interesting.
Oh man.
I
Hopefully,
think
we
that
get
guy
to,
just robbed this place. We are now
Oh.
witnesses. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should delete this
Yeah,
file.
maybe. Hopefully, it would get to post production, but I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
We'll fix it in post.
They would, they would commandeer it, take it off the internet.
Ah,
So I'd say the coffee is really good. Do you want to say anything about the coffee? And
Yeah.
Oh,
rate them?
sure. Today we brewed Flavor Girl from Kuroko. It's Sumatra,
mhm.
I think, and then it's got some other words that I don't know what they are underneath it.
English.
It's very smooth.
Good.
Have you been to Kuroko?
No.
Ooh.
Must go. Must go.
Where's
Um,
this at?
This is downtown Sycamore.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're a roastery. Stands for coffee. Okay, so it's the first two. That was a long time ago. It's like the first two letters.
Don't keep
of
me
each,
anticipating.
of each word. Coffee Roasters Collective, Kuroko.
Koroko.
Yeah. But then you just say it, Kuroko. John didn't know that. This is news to John.
Oh, wow. For those who also didn't know that.
Yeah, Coffee Roasters Collective.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I didn't even know they existed. So I mean, you're all one up on me.
It is
It's right by
life
PJ's.
changing.
It's pretty life changing.
Yeah.
It started. When did we first go?
Right when they opened, I think.
Yeah,
Didn't
pretty
we?
close to.
Yeah, we did
Like
a.
within a week or two of their first little pop up
Mhm.
shop thing.
Those were really cool. They
Those were
did like these coffee tasting pop-up shops where you'd go in and they'd have like 4 tables set up with, their different roasts and things like that, and you'd be able to go in and buy something or, do whatever. So it was good.
You would
Are they-
always leave with like the biggest caffeine
Yeah.
like kick.
We'd be going to class and we'd be like, okay.
Is it right there by the trophy shop?
I don't know where the trophy shop is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh gosh, okay.
That's okay.
It's on.
All right, you know where that the corner of Elm and Salmonok? There's that big parking lot,
Yes.
and then west of there, there's a long building.
Nearby, kind of in that area. It's on California.
You're getting warmer.
And
Is
You're
it south
almost
of Elm?
there.
I think it's, yes, south of
Yeah.
Elm.
So
Yeah.
the same building's got a trophy shop.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I believe you.
So for all our friends and family who want to check out Kuroko, you now know
Go to
where it is.
Go to the trophy shop.
Well, so I use the trophy shop. I build guitar amplifiers, and the trophy
Oh,
shop
sick.
makes
I was going to ask you about that.
all my faceplates.
Okay.
Oh man, here
So-
we go.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask you about that too, because that's been
Let's get into it.
post
Oh, okay.
photography.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guitar
I mean,
amplifiers.
they overlapped a little bit.
Okay.
There was a time, back in.
Morning, Connor.
Morning, Connor.
Connor, what are we eating this morning?
Breakfast.
No, no, I meant the cereal. What cereal?
What are we eating this morning?
Honey
Breakfast.
Crunches of Oats.
So Connor's going to be in the podcast now.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Sorry, Jason.
No,
What,
no, not a problem. Yeah, there was a time like the interests overlapped back in the 2000s, and I was trying to decide which way to go, and I decided to go for amplifiers, which
For sure.
then led me to NIU, and that's why I'm here now.
I was about to ask,
Yeah.
did you go to school for
Electrical
audio?
engineering.
electrical engineering?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I never actually intended to stay in DeKalb. I hope all the people out there listening don't think that I hate the town
It
or
is,
anything like that. But I came here for school, and I planned on leaving, and that was I graduated 2012, and I'm still here. So
It is crazy.
For sure.
It is so crazy how many people I talk to that is, like that's their story.
Yeah.
I came here for school. I didn't plan on staying. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a bad place.
It's not a bad
no,
place.
it's not.
It's not.
We've got
Um,
good coffee shops now.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
we're getting there on the chain.
We get
On the chain.
the chain
On
of
the chain.
towns, the
On the-
chain of command.
On the chain of like, wow, we have good coffee shops. Like we're respectable.
Oh yeah, that chain.
Before all
for
we
sure.
had was Starbucks and Panera.
Yeah.
No, we had House Cafe. Come on. Now.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
house.
Like I don't know.
Sorry.
I mean,
We don't normally do that.
they may have not been the world's greatest coffee. I mean, they're decent, but they were also a city icon.
Sure,
Everyone
that's
knew
true.
About the House
Did you
Cafe.
go to shows there?
I went to a few. Yes.
Okay.
I've got strangely, I've got family connections to the House Cafe.
Really?
When my great uncle owned a pharmacy here in town
Mhm.
that later moved into that building and ran a pharmacy out of the House
Wow.
Cafe.
That's
Oh.
At the same time, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, this was last year. You know.
we had to shut down when they shut down. But
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my grandma told me stories of driving up to DeKalb in the 50s to get
Mhm.
M&Ms because they weren't available down.
wow,
Whoa.
Really?
that is awesome.
So
That's impressive.
I feel like I've had so many connections with this town before ever coming here.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, totally.
I had an aunt who used to live here. Somebody I
Wow.
went to college, goes to our church. Somebody I went to youth group with also goes to our church. And so, I mean, I guess I was
How long
destined
have
to
you
be
been here? Did you come here in 2012? Was that your start of DeKalb?
I moved January of 09.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That long. Holy cow.
so
when
you've seen
I-
it change. You've seen it really become what it is.
Yeah. Not so. I mean, more recently, some of the changes are good, but there was a lot of decline.
Yeah,
Mm.
there has been a lot of decline.
I mean,
Yeah.
enrollment kind of was dropping for a while there at NIU, and you can imagine like less people coming in, less money spent. You know what I mean? The whole
Right.
cycle of that. But yeah. So when I knew you, when you went to Crosspoint and New Life before that, that was pre 09.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I left Crosspoint to come here.
That's crazy.
Wow. So you knew Baby Titus.
You knew
I did.
Small
I was
Titus.
actually
Oh.
I was fairly close to his dad.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we still talk now and
Yeah.
then, but his dad and I we would always share like music recommendations.
Uh-huh.
Those are the best friendships.
Because we're both of the general belief that a lot of Christian music is not that good,
Yeah.
Mm.
and so it's
Mhm.
like if we find the one actually good, talented band,
Sure.
then we gotta let each other know.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Like,
What
this
are-
is it.
I gotta ask. So I'm a worship leader.
You know what? I'm not insulting all Christian
No,
music.
no, no. I was about to. No, I didn't get that.
Okay.
Is there like, and keep, this could be a whole other thing. Is there a difference between worship and Christian music? Like, are we talking like K-Love and?
I would say so. I think worship music is Christian music specifically for Christians.
Sure.
I mean, somebody who's just looking for a good song to listen to crank up on the radio, who's not a Christian, is not going to look for worship music.
Yeah,
for sure.
that gets
I mean,
weird quick.
At best, they're just not going to understand what you're talking
Right,
about.
Yeah.
exactly.
And at worst, I mean, unfortunately, for better or for worse, worship music has a sound. It's a
Mhm.
genre.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. It's like the same 4 chords.
As a worship leader, John
I
is
can say
yeah,
that.
Admitting.
Not hymns though.
Okay.
At church and DeKalb, we'll play hymns, and that's
This is
like
true.
every other beat. It's a chord change,
I hate that.
and it's annoying.
As someone who only knows how to play 4 chords and is often capoed,
Yeah,
it's like,
Capo.
I mean, that's why, as a worship leader, you only need to know what G, C, D, E minor, and how to use a capo.
yep.
Hey,
that's my
next door.
secret.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to out you on the podcast.
No, it's okay. Everyone knows.
Bummer.
Oh man.
Yeah, because you wouldn't like worship to, I don't know, Switchfoot, right?
Right.
You could. I mean, more John Foreman's single stuff, but
I don't know much about that.
Yeah.
I only
But-
listened to them like in 2011 or so.
Yeah.
I think I'm behind the time,
That's
ahead of the
okay.
time.
No, yeah. You just have continued to listen to them where
Oh yeah.
I haven't as much recently.
Yeah, I think a lot of Christian music that's not worship music
Mhm.
tends towards this, like, okay, life is hard, but I'm good because I have God,
Yeah.
which is true,
Sure.
but it seems to gloss over all the real life struggles.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
more to it.
Yeah, like there was a band that I listened to a lot in high school, Shaded Red, which they
Okay.
only ever made 2 albums, and I don't really know what happened to them after that. But between their first and second album, they got into a. Oh, your dad knows about it.
Write that down. Write that down.
Between their first and second album, they got into on a tour. They got into a car wreck, and one of the
Oh my
band members
goodness.
died.
Oh, wow.
And so the second album had, understandably, a much darker tone,
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
which was great. Like in high school, there was a time I struggled deeply with depression, and
Mhm.
I even considered suicide.
Yeah.
One of the lyrics of their song from their second one was just him going through the loss of his friend. He's like,
Yeah.
"Why can I not die, but others fade away?"
Mm.
Man.
Wow, that's
know,
real.
You need to hear that thing.
Yeah,
That's not
definitely.
something you're going to hear in a worship song, which that's not the purpose of worship song.
Right.
Sure.
But if you don't hear that from Christian music, then people are going to look for answers elsewhere.
Mm.
And they're going to find answers in the world, and that's at best misguided.
Yeah.
Fleeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's good.
Do you think some of your musical interests in high school drove you into like audio engineering? What did you say you were?
Well, electrical engineering. but-
Electrical
He
engineering.
does a lot of audio engineering now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So talk about that journey from like high school to college to like now.
Yeah. So a lot of that started, I picked up the guitar, 13, 14. Oh gosh, I'm getting old. I'm now thinking that was more than half of my life ago.
That's okay, yeah.
That's wow.
That's
You don't look a day over 25.
Truth.
Keep drinking the coffee.
Truth. Truth.
But yeah, I started getting into guitar. I had a cheap Fender and an old PV amp, and
Mm.
it was one of those where like no matter what I did, it just didn't. It never sounded good.
That's
I was
okay.
like,
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll throw a couple pedals at it, and maybe it'll sound decent,
Sure.
kind of thing. And a friend of mine gave me this really old, like 1960s practice amp.
Okay.
Only had one knob, just volume.
Okay.
That's it. I
Nice.
was like, okay, I've got this channel switching PV in this one thing.
Sure.
Well, the condition was like it didn't work. He's like, if you can fix it, it's yours. I was like,
Nice.
all right, cool. So I managed to not kill myself, and in the process, that was not a reference to the depression. I just realized that.
Impressive.
No, a lot of the old amps use very high voltage. It
Yeah.
can be deadly. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, my
But
gosh.
and I got it to work. And what amazed me is with one knot, like it didn't matter what I did, it always sounded good.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, there's something here. So
Uh-huh.
I just that piqued my interest,
Yeah.
and so I started like studying old amplifiers and everything like that, and I really wanted to buy a Marshall,
Okay.
but I was about $2,000 short of the
Yeah,
$2,000 purchase
right.
Oh
price.
man, they are. Yeah.
So I ended up building my own amp. Cost me about $800 back then, which is I still didn't have that money. I don't know where I came up with that, but
Very carefully.
and I loved it, and I was like, this is really cool. I want to keep going with this. So that's how I got into that.
That's that.
So what all did that like? I want to say what all did that entail? Like, what did you have to like study, and what did you have to?
A lot of it was actually I found a really good internet forum,
Sick.
which those are really hard to find.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You ask any question out there, you're going to get 3 opinions, and there are going to be 4 different viewpoints. So,
Yeah, it's true.
and all of them are very sure of their position.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But I found it a good one that was helpful, and they guided me through it. And I don't want to be I don't even know the word I'm looking for. It took me 3 attempts to actually build
Fair.
the Marshall. The
Fair.
first 2 ones did not go well, and I even shocked myself
Yikes.
at one point.
Yes.
I survived, obviously. But,
Good. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for joining us.
yeah, I built it twice, didn't work, so then I switched to a simpler type amplifier to kind of build up my skills and understanding, and then I went back and built that one again, and I still have it actually, but
Good for you.
Last
Does it still work?
I tried,
Good. That's impressive.
but yeah, so just kind of understanding how they work, and then after a little while, I was like, well, I don't want to just keep building what everybody else has built. I want
Sure.
to branch out and try to
Yeah.
come up with new things. So that's where I'm at now, and just trying to, come up with my own sound.
What's
Yeah.
unique about your sound?
What
through your
sets you apart from other
amplifiers?
artists?
This is more of an interview now. Honestly, let's be honest.
Oh boy. Well, one of the things I found that tended to be lacking in amplifiers is like when you go out and buy one, it usually has a really good clean sound, but then the distortion is just kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
Or the other way around, you get something that sounds. I mean, like take the original Marshall.
Sure.
They're excellent when they're overdriven, but you try to do anything clean out of it, it sounds like, I don't know, you're playing through a sock or something.
Right.
And it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I wanted to do is, is there a way I can make both a clean and a distortion sound decent?
Yeah.
Another thing was, this came from actually, I played around with a Mesa Boogie Road King, and it's a 4
Yes,
channel.
the Mason Boogie Road King.
You're familiar with it.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
No, most of the sound stuff, these guys will know, but most of the sound
Yeah.
stuff's gonna go a little bit over my head. But I'm here for it. I'm
Either
so
way,
here for
I
it.
mean,
Just watch this back a couple times. You'll be good.
I'm kind of picking on Mesa Boogie, but that's because they're also they're pretty popular. But one of the things I didn't like about it is like the Road King, for example, it has 4 channels on it, and each channel there's I should, for the sake of the people on audio, I can't do hand signals.
Oh, you're good.
Each channel has 7, 8 knobs and about 3 or 4 switches.
Sure.
And so you just got this giant wall of switches and controls, and you can get good sounds out of them, absolutely. But you're gonna spend a few weeks just trying to figure out what
Sure.
everything does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you're taking away from actually playing it. I want you
Yeah.
to be able to plug in and play, and it may not
It
be
sounds good.
it sounds
Yeah.
good. You can tweak it and find a better setting, but
Sure.
if but you should be able to just plug in and play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So I wanted, so that was my 2 things: simple and be able to do clean and distortion.
Cool.
Nice.
Super cool.
So yeah,
How much do you play now? Like hobby or like every day or
unfortunately, very rarely.
okay. Yeah.
I'd say maybe a couple hours a month.
Sure.
So
That
Yeah.
happens. That happens.
It's hard when life gets busy.
yeah, as I say, it's interesting. I started out with the goal of I just wanted to have a good amplifier to play,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got so hooked on that I stopped playing to build an amplifier.
Yeah. Definitely.
So
Did you ever play for like a band or in a church setting or
just church settings.
just church settings? Nice.
I was
Yeah.
looking for the unreleased Jason Pittenger album that
Oh.
was out there somewhere.
Yeah, me too.
I was,
Oh my gosh, 2004,
I was hoping for it.
like emo Jason Pittenger
Oh my.
album.
He's got long hair. The album cover.
Was there a?
I do have. Anyone here know Keith Green?
Keith Green.
Have heard of Keith Green?
Yes,
Sounds familiar.
I
but
have heard
don't
of
know.
Keith Green through
Okay.
my mother, I believe.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Do you know who he is?
he
Yes.
he died in like the early '80s, so
Oh,
yeah.
no, it's not
Hmm.
somebody that I would expect you guys to know, but
I'm blessed.
he was a Christian musician, played piano, excellent piano player.
Hmm.
Anyway, I bring that up. He was known for he had a beard and like an afro, a white afro.
Nice.
Dang.
You look pretty
There are
sick.
pictures of me in a white afro.
Okay.
No.
Impressive.
I had long hair.
Impressive.
What?
It's curly. And
Did
it's
you
curly
happen
when
to
you grow it
bring
out.
any of those with you this morning?
I did not.
Oh, bummer.
On your sheet film?
Next time.
Yeah, right.
We'll put those in the description below.
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
kidding.
We
They
probably
exist.
won't.
We
yes.
won't. But
They're out there.
Yeah, they're out there.
Pictures of me with long hair are out there.
Titus, that was like 2 months ago.
That's okay. I'll try again in a couple of years, and then maybe it'll be like, oh, impressive. You
Yeah.
have long hair. But
Nah. Just kidding.
nah.
So you were in the military
Yes.
for a certain period of time.
Oh, when was that?
Yeah. When was that? Tell us about it. And I have a follow-up question.
Well, as I say, that's actually kind of played into the long hair thing. Because there's a big gap between. Well, I knew that I was going to join the military,
Mhm.
and I also know that my dad has thinning hair, and therefore I will someday, and now do.
That's me, dude. That's why I grew mine out.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to grow it out because I have to cut it short for the army, and by the time I get out, I probably won't be able to grow it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I joined in November of 2006.
Mhm.
Why did you join?
I
Was
wanted
that
to go
the
to college,
follow-up?
Hmm.
and
Is that
you
the
know,
follow-up? Oh, bummer.
I couldn't pay for it. My parents couldn't pay for it, so I was like, "Oh, I got to find a way."
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I was like, "Oh, I'll do this."
Yeah.
Good option.
It's interesting. I left for basic training in January 30th, 2007,
Okay.
and then January 30th, 2008, I landed in Kuwait.
Wow.
So it was like a year to the day.
That's crazy.
That was weird.
That's
And so
super
I
impressive.
was actually in Kuwait when there was the shooting here at NIU,
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
which was kind of weird because it's like I'm in a war zone right now
Yeah.
Mm,
where I
Yeah.
should be, expecting to be shot.
Sure.
And if I wasn't here, I could have been back at NIU and actually been shot.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah,
So that
Man.
kind of messed me up for a little bit. Like,
for sure.
this is what world do we live in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Man, that's super crazy to think about. Yeah.
I found out about the deployment 2 days before move-in day
Oh, wow.
of 2007,
Okay.
August 2007.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, the weekend before move-in.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a little bit of like a big, like, wow, I have to go and change everything?
Right, yeah, I was already signed up for classes. I had my
Mhm.
dorm room picked out. I was all ready to move in, and they're like, "Yeah, you're not going to."
Wow.
Okay.
You're like, I guess that's what I got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I did sign up for this. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was over in Iraq till end of October of 2008.
Okay.
Mm.
It's very hot.
Yeah.
Don't recommend it. But I got
Lot
to
of
see.
sand?
Yeah, a lot of sand. A lot of sand. It will get everywhere,
Yeah.
and I mean everywhere.
Yeah.
But I got to see Saddam Hussein's palace.
Oh,
Pretty cool.
Wow.
impressive.
Pictures of that also exist.
On film? Just checking.
I did have a handheld digital with me too. So
Shoot.
actually, if you want to go back on my Facebook profile, in 2008, I went through and posted like a whole bunch of pictures
I
10
might.
years later,
I might, just for
Wow.
or you might not.
fun. Or I might not. That's a good point.
But no,
That was a courtesy recommendation right there.
No, in 2018, I went through and posted a bunch of highlights from that.
Mm.
Cool.
So
Super cool. Like a 10-year commemoration of what does it feel like? I mean, 10 years looking back on that whole experience, like different, better, worse.
I mean, as time goes on, you tend to only remember the good things, and the bad things kind of tend to fade.
That's good.
Mm.
It was definitely weird. It was like, wow, it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Where did time go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So, Yeah, definitely. I mean, God definitely protected me there because,
Mhm.
like, again, I was there when the shooting was here.
Sure.
I came home for leave somewhere in April, and there was a uh, vehicle bomb at one of the entrances that killed
Oh,
a couple
wow.
of people. It's like, well,
Sure.
I'm back in the U.S. and something happens there.
Yeah.
Wow.
On
Man,
our base.
Sure.
A couple, a month or two after we left, the unit that took over, one of the guys got hit and killed by a mortar.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like,
my
I
gosh.
felt like I was just,
Sure.
just avoiding incidences.
Sure.
Yeah.
would you say that was
So-
like a big period of growth? Or you something completely different?
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I mean, I was homeschooled, and now's my time to pick on Noah. I was picking on you earlier, John.
Yeah, I know.
But
Titus, you're next.
I'm
Yeah.
laughing.
it's like, but no, homeschooling is a little. I would say it's different now than what it used to be. My parents were more on the forefront of that kind of stuff, and they didn't know necessarily what they didn't know. So I don't really blame them. But I mean, one of the things of homeschooling back then was, where the concerns now come from of how are you going to socialize, all that kind
Sure.
of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have, going through high school, I didn't have, nobody offered me drugs.
Sure. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things, I can't say everybody goes through it, but a lot of the struggles that high school students go through, I wasn't exposed to.
Yeah.
Sure.
There weren't people. Everybody I knew went to church.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Not I can't say everyone was a Christian, but like
Sure.
everybody was at least a generally moral person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went into the Army, it was like, oh my, this
Yeah.
is culture shock.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I would say it definitely helped prepare me for the real world, because in the real world there are a lot of mean people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
for
That's
lack of a
true.
better word. So
That's good.
I definitely grew up in that time.
For sure.
I mean, yeah, I was 21, 22 at the time.
Yeah.
But it definitely like exposed me to more of the world, not just literally being in another part of the world, but like just being around other people.
Yeah.
Wow.
That would be like us, but in the Army right now. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
21, 22. That's great.
Yeah.
Because you
That's
were
really
you were Army, right? Were you
Yeah, Army Reserve.
Reserve? Okay, cool.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well,
Good
thank
for
you
you.
for your service.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
So
And then you
Yeah.
came back,
yes, I did.
glad, and you immediately started school at NIU.
Yeah, so I came back in November or October. Spent a couple months down there because I was waiting for the next semester, basically.
Mhm.
So, and then went to school in January.
Cool. That's crazy.
And then from that point, kind of walk us through what happened next.
Well, 10 years went by, and then now, and then
Now
another
I'm-
2, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
Now I'm on InHaus podcast.
Yeah. Well, gee.
Got married, joined a church,
Mhm.
or joined a church, got married. I don't know when.
Yeah, so I started dating my wife actually while I was home on leave
Mhm.
in 2008. I don't recommend it. Like I was home for 2 weeks, asked her out, and then left for 6 months.
That's rough.
It's kind of a harsh way to start a
Wow.
relationship,
For sure.
But hey, look at you now.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course everybody in the Army, oh, she's gonna leave you. She's gonna leave you. Blah, blah. Oh, okay, whatever,
Sure.
Yeah. There you
Um,
go.
But so we were still dating. We didn't get married till 2010.
Mhm.
So it was. So I came up here, was going to school, joined a church. Actually, the church John's at now.
Yeah.
Bethany Road.
Which was Harvest Bible Chapel, or was it Harvest then?
Yeah, it was Harvest then.
Yeah.
My sister was going to a Harvest and really liked it, and
Mhm.
so I saw that there was a Harvest here. Oddly enough, found it when I was taking my roommate to his. He had broken his leg, and I had to drive him to his physical therapy. And I was like,
Rough.
"Oh, there's a Harvest. Okay, cool."
Nice.
I should backtrack. I'm sorry. When I first got up here, I was like, "Oh, I need to find a church."
Yeah.
So my criteria was literally what has the latest start time on a Sunday,
Nice.
and that was Christ Community Church
Nice.
Yep.
at 10:30 a.m.
Nice.
So I started going there.
Man, that's not even that late.
Yeah,
I feel
wow.
like could be. That's okay.
Yeah, but that beats 9 o'clock.
That
Yeah.
does beat
9:30.
that.
So
Yeah,
Sure.
That's
For sure.
I was not an early riser in those days.
Even
Um,
after the Army.
Oh, I couldn't wait to get back to him.
Oh man. Sleeping in. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
Okay. for sure.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I saw the harvest, and I started going there. And I started helping out with. Trying to remember the timeline. At some point, I started helping out with the youth ministry. That's where I met John. He was actually one of the students there.
Woo.
So it's just kind of weird the connections I have with
Yeah,
different
for sure.
people again.
Yeah.
DeKalb's a small town.
It is.
is,
Yeah. So yeah, we were going there for a couple of years. Got married in 2010. We got married back at our home church down in Eureka. So you were probably there.
I don't remember. I might have been there.
Well, I know your parents were there.
Yeah, they
So-
definitely were.
Your mom took a bunch of pictures. I still got all.
Oh, good for her. Thanks, Becky. Appreciate it.
You call your mom Becky?
No, just
I
on
was
the
about to say, you
podcast.
actually call your mom Becky.
Just on the podcast.
So yeah, we was there. Finished school in 2012. I actually got. I had my first job in my career. Before I graduated.
Good for you.
And that's kind of why I ended up staying here, because it was like, well, I have a job, but I'm still in school. So I was like, I might as well just continue here.
Stay
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let me think here. So that was 2012. I ended up staying at that job until 2017. And really, I left that job just because I wanted. It was like, it was my first job in the career. I didn't want to get. I wanted to see what else was out there
Sure.
rather than just kind of stick with my first job.
Yeah.
So
Because you don't know, the field as much because it's just like one specific job, right?
yeah, and one of my coworkers there, still in contact with him, but it was like, your first 5 years on the job, you learn 80% of what you're ever going to learn from that
Sure.
job.
Yeah.
And he's like, when you have 20 years at a job, you don't have 20 years of experience. You have 5 years of experience 4 times over.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
So he's like,
Wow.
if you want to keep learning, you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super interesting.
That's a good.
Which is, I mean, it's a very different mindset than like our parents or grandparents had.
Right.
No
They're
kidding.
the kind like, they get a job out of school, and then next thing you know, 40 years later, they're getting a gold watch and retiring.
Yeah.
So like that's just not how things seem to work nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking with my dad about that, just like the fluidity of how that has changed over the past couple of generations. You know what I mean? Like it's no longer like career as one job. It's like career as in field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're kind of moving around to different jobs, different people to pay you, maybe the same job doing the same
Yeah.
work, but throughout the rest of your life. I mean, because my dad's had in his field maybe 4 jobs, 3 or 4. So it's just like, and that's been in the past, 20-ish years,
Okay.
So it's like that mindset has kind of changed, like you were saying. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think that's helpful too. Like, where I work right now, we work on commercial kitchen appliances, like, specifically in the fast food restaurant,
Mhm.
stuff
Yeah.
that McDonald's and Burger King and all that is going to use.
Sure.
And one of my managers, he came from GM and has experience in automotive.
Wow.
And of course, it's like, well, what does a car have in common with commercial appliances? But it's like when you start to bring in the different aspects, it's like, okay, well, we had a problem similar to this in automotive. This is
Sure.
how we dealt with it.
Sure.
And just that they call it cross pollination.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if all you've ever worked on is toasters or heaters for your entire life, it's like, good, you're great at those, but
Sure.
you know nothing else. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Your field of vision is on that and not expanded.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's really
Wow.
interesting. Huh. So how do you?
Go ahead.
Oh.
Mine's a joke, so you just go.
Oh no.
It's one of
I
the.
was gonna,
Oh boy.
I was gonna say, so do we blame you for all the ice cream machines being broken?
Okay, so
Oh.
No, I keep hearing about that, but I haven't heard the official story. So what is the official story?
I-
I
not
just
even
know
official,
whenever
but-
I go to McDonald's and I ask for ice cream, they're like, "Can't do it for you. The ice cream
Broke.
machine is broken."
Sure. Yeah.
That
and
was
it's like,
good.
how is your
I'm
ice
just-
cream machine always broken? Get a
Yeah.
new one.
Yeah. Or fix it somehow. You have to attempt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, why are you the only restaurant?
It's a dairy machine. The maintenance on it to clean it is like pretty awful.
Okay, we
Oh.
have insider information from Connor. It's a dairy machine. Connor, come here.
Connor,
Do you want to steal Jason's mic for a second? Ladies and gentlemen,
Connor,
You have to clean
Connor,
it
welcome
very
to the
often
podcast.
because it's dairy, so you have to like clean all the parts often, and because McDonald's employees are very, very.
Choose your words carefully.
Yeah,
I was just
this
about
is
to
going
say.
out on the internet.
Underpaid?
Yeah. Yes. They don't do it very quickly. So.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
Thank God, McDonald's ice cream.
So there you have it. That's the reason.
Yeah.
Well,
specifically-
what's your story, Jason?
I'm sorry, I
What is
blamed
your?
you.
Well, specifically, the company I work for does not make ice cream machines for McDonald's.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah.
So-
So we can't blame
You
you.
dodged a bullet, but I got my eye on you.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say how it has, just experience within life, and moving to DeKalb and all that stuff, going from church to
Mhm.
now church in DeKalb,
Yeah.
and then becoming an elder there. How has that been, and how has God, I don't know, worked in your life? Has there been any like specific things that you've really gleaned from just that?
Gleaned from eldership. Do you call it eldership? Is that a word?
I think so.
Sure.
Okay, we'll call it that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I can take this a number of ways. I think first off, and kind of like a little more on a practical level of like, one thing I learned from going to the church in DeKalb is like, one of the people there, she was good friends with my sister back in my high school days, and we went to the same youth group together. And another person I went to community college with, and the whole thing about that is like, you never know when you're going to cross paths with someone again.
Sure.
I also remember, so our church used to meet in the house cafe. I don't remember the exact timeline. That was before we went there. Started going there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
But
super cool.
there was one Sunday after church that I stopped in at the house cafe,
Mm-hmm.
and this church was there. I don't remember to this day who I talked to,
Sure.
but I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And they were having a after church potluck.
Nice.
So I chatted with a couple of the people.
Sure.
I'm sure I met a lot of people that I know now. It's just I met them, and then like several years went by before we went back to that church.
Yeah.
But, just people come back around in your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, Titus, for example, I knew you growing up, and
Yeah.
not closely. We weren't
Sure.
great friends, but I knew you growing up. I knew your family, and
Mhm.
now I'm sitting here on your podcast, John.
Yeah.
I was your youth leader, and now we're back here. And
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
sorry, Noah, I just met you. So.
That's all good. That's all
Not
good.
today, I should say.
Yeah.
But I mean, like a year ago.
Uh-huh.
So that's one thing I learned is like, God brings people back around.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Specifically speaking to eldership, it was one of those things like I felt God saying, "Hey, you should go this direction." I was like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified.
For sure.
But I talked with my pastor, and I was like, I feel like God is calling me this way. And he's
Mhm.
like, well, I think that's one of the first requirements is desiring it. It's
For sure.
like, okay, you're supposed to tell me no.
Yeah.
And he went through with me the biblical requirements of eldership, and I was like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not that. I'm not that. Definitely not that. I mean, I don't feel qualified. It's like,
Sure.
well, that's good. If you felt qualified, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Come on now, you're not helping me here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's shown me that it's not me. It's
Mhm.
not my skills. It's not what I can do. It's God chooses people.
For sure.
He says, "I want you," and you can either fight it or you can go along with it.
For sure.
I think of I'm no way comparing myself to the Apostle Paul at all,
Sure.
except to say that Paul was on his own path and was right. What he believed to be righteously killing other the
Yeah.
heretics,
Yeah.
and God's like, I'm going to make you one of them.
Yeah.
And Paul was like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm going to do now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things of like, it's not, it wasn't that Paul was qualified. It was that he was called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amen.
So
Ooh,
I think that's
a
a
good.
big
It's
thing.
really good.
Called, not qualified. That's
Mhm.
a good T-shirt or
Yeah.
something.
Called
Yeah.
not qualified. Merch coming soon. I'm kidding.
And through that, I've learned their ministry is difficult.
Mhm.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a pastor. I'm sure as a worship leader, but it's like the things you have to deal with. Life is messy.
Oh yeah.
People, we're all sinners. We're all
Mhm.
our hearts are wicked, desperately wicked.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes you just want to kind of shake somebody and be like, you're doing it wrong.
Sure.
But you can't do that.
Right.
No.
And sometimes you come along and as gentle and as lovingly as possible, you say, hey, you know what? This is what the truth says, and you're not, I want to help you,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
you're not living up to this. And sometimes that works out really well and the people come back around. And sometimes they, say words that I'm not going to say on this podcast and never talk to you again in your life.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you sit there and think, I've certainly made mistakes.
Mhm.
There's no question about that.
Me too.
But it's like, even if you do everything right, sometimes people won't respond.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And I, also not comparing myself to Jesus, but even he had a disciple fall away.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, if this perfect Son of God, I gotta be careful how I say this, but it's like, even the perfect Son of God had one person who said, no, I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, in that case, it wasn't on Jesus. That was part of God's plan
Yeah.
that Judas
That
would
was
turn
gonna
away.
happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And so, you can mourn the loss of people from your church,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't hold yourself responsible for it, for everything that happens, because sometimes it's going to happen no matter what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Hmm.
Like we're called to just be faithful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like to where the Lord is leading and where the Lord is calling, and along the way, things will happen, and we just have to keep going, like trusting that the Lord is moving in that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he is.
Hey, always
Yeah,
is.
he
Yeah.
always is. Yeah.
And I always think, like, when it comes to, I know a lot of people are really nervous about, like, presenting the gospel and witnessing to people and
Sure.
everything like that. And, oh, am I going to say all of the right words? And, I got to be able to convince them and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the irony of it all is, you could sit there and give them this long, elaborate 5-point sermon and take them through Romans Road and all that kind of stuff.
Romans Road.
And at the end of the day, they're just like, nah.
Sure.
And then that same person could hear someone say, could walk up and, hey, God loves you.
Yeah.
And they just break down and be like, I
Yeah.
need this. And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Come on. I put all this effort in.
I literally spent 3 hours with you. I spent money on you.
Yeah.
And I had that happen with a neighbor of had come over. He'd come home late at night, kind of inebriated, be
Mhm.
pretty loud, and all that kind of stuff. And I'd just go over and hang out at the fire pit and talk
Sure.
with him about things and all that sort of stuff. And I was always willing to share my life. I
Mhm.
wasn't try to be coy with anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've got struggles too.
Yeah.
And after about a year, then he ended up moving away. And I was like, well, I may never see him again. Okay,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then 2 years after that, he all of a sudden shows up in my church.
Uh-huh.
Like-
Yeah.
Man.
This is crazy.
And what it was is, it ended up being like his wife talked with him a lot. And, I don't know what brought her to faith.
Sure.
But she started sharing it with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember him saying this. Oh, I
Mhm.
remember him saying this."
Sure.
And it's like, I can't take credit for any of this, because it's like, I poured my heart out to this and it went nowhere.
Yeah.
But God was like, it's not his time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
God's gonna use somebody else down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And so
super
it's
cool.
like, no matter what we do, even if we do the elaborate, whether we're the elaborate presentation or we're the guy
Sure.
who just says, "Hey, Jesus loves you,"
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's not us. It's
Uh-huh.
God that changes the heart.
Amen.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think a lot of times, something I have to remind myself of is like, a lot of times you're just planting a seed.
Yeah.
You
for
know,
sure.
a lot of times you're planting a seed and you won't see the result of your labor.
Yeah.
Often you won't,
Sure.
but you never know what that one conversation did.
Yeah.
And so that's good, because I think that's like crazy. I think like it's so cool to see how the Lord orchestrates things. And you're like,
Yeah.
I would have never thought.
Yeah.
Like you saw him 2 years later and you're like, I would have never ever thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes the Lord just softens a hard heart,
For sure.
Mhm.
Definitely.
you know?
In his time.
It's,
Yeah. Cool. Well, can I ask the last question?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
You
You
just
have-
did, so.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
You want
Thanks
one
for
more?
watching it
Yeah.
on podcast.
All right, bye, guys.
So, you can keep this shorter because I know short on time.
Yeah.
But you talk about the gospel and
Mhm.
presenting it to people.
Mhm.
How are we as believers? How ought we or how should we share the gospel during these times of unrest and
Should we open this to the table?
craziness?
Is this
Oh,
a
yeah.
table question? Table table question?
Table question? What's a
Just Jason. Do you just want Jason?
What?
Do you just
Oh, is
want
this a discussion
Jason's?
for the whole table
Yeah.
or just
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's quick.
Okay.
Quick 30 seconds.
Jason, you go first. Because
Jason,
we want
you
to
go
make
first.
sure
Well,
you.
So this reminds me of when I first started going to the church. Sat down, the church in DeKalb. Sat down with Jamie and at Starbucks and just going through like, what does this church believe? What do you
Mhm.
believe? All that kind of stuff. And we're getting ready to leave. We're putting on our coats, and I was like, "Can you tell me about predestination?"
Oh wow.
Wow.
Like,
Boom.
that's not a question you ask in the doorway of the Starbucks.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I did. And so I'm now poking at you, Noah. Like,
Uh-huh.
hey, we don't have much time, but can you answer this hour-long question?
Sure.
Yeah, right.
So next week on the podcast,
Yeah.
We're actually gonna have Jason back.
Hey, I love that.
We would love that.
So it's a very good question. As you can imagine, there's a lot of political divide in our nation. I think that's one of the big things going on right now,
Mhm.
where you've got two very different sides who
Mhm.
both think they're right,
Sure.
and are both very adamant about it, and
Mhm.
both don't want to see the other person's side.
Sure.
And I don't, some of my own political views might slip out, but that's not the point here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, there are a lot of, I think, traditionally, a lot of Christians side with Republicans,
Mhm.
and traditionally, a lot of non-Christians side with liberalism.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think what ends up going on is you start getting into this mindset that Jesus was a Republican.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And while, here's my political views for a second, while I think that there are more things in the Republican Party that align with Christianity than there are in liberal
Mhm.
or democratic policies, I would say there are some democratic policies that that we as Christians tend to ignore.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of them they're good ideas. Some of them are, we should just be, we as Christians should also agree with these.
Mhm.
Some of them they're great ideas, but perhaps the implementation is flawed.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think of like, the ideas behind like socialism or,
Mhm.
higher taxes so that we can provide more welfare for the poor.
Sure.
I think there's a biblical aspect of taking care of the poor. Like,
Sure.
those who have money are commanded to
Mhm.
give generously to help those who don't have.
Mhm.
I think where the flawed implementation of it is, I don't see taxes as a generous gift, but
Yeah.
rather as a forced redistribution.
Sure.
Right.
Definitely.
And so it's like the idea is good, the implementation is flawed.
Mhm.
But more specifically, there's some of the divisions now. There's is racism is a huge thing. There's one side who wants to say there is no racism. There's one side who wants to say everything is racist.
Mhm.
I don't think either of those are true. I think there's definitely racism, but I don't think everything is racist.
Yeah.
And how to speak into that, I think you always have to come back to the root principle of the gospel. Like,
Mhm.
what may, you can't just say there is no racism.
Right.
But the color of somebody's skin does not determine their worth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Amen.
One of the big things, another big thing that Republicans tend to separate from true Christianity
Mhm.
is on the issue of immigration.
Mhm.
In that, the people coming into this nation, they're
Mhm.
still people.
Yeah.
Like,
Amen.
there's an aspect of, you can still enforce laws,
Mhm.
but you cannot dehumanize somebody.
Yeah.
That's right.
Definitely.
Because you don't, regardless of their situation, everybody is still a person at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everybody was made in the image of God.
Amen.
And even if they break the law, they are still made in the image of God.
For
You
sure.
have to treat them as people.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you see that throughout history of anytime a group of people becomes oppressed, one of the first things that's done is they are separated from humans.
Yeah.
Historically with blacks,
Mhm.
there were a lot of nicknames that were non-human nicknames.
Mhm.
Or in the Holocaust, the Jews were often referred to as less than human, or an inferior group, Well, once someone's no longer human, you can justify any action against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Indians were savages. You know,
Sure.
they weren't people. It's like, well, no, these are still people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
For sure.
I think it's very important to keep everybody as human. I think in some degrees, even the word racist, you know, calling somebody a racist now, if somebody is considered racist, they are no longer a valued member of society. So you
Sure.
can do whatever you want to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's kind of the reverse of the same problem. So
definitely.
I think the
Yeah.
big thing is just hate never stops hate.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Come on.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's a gospel presentation right there, right?
Yeah.
Darkness
is.
cannot drive out darkness; only light can. Right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. I think you covered.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I was-
I don't
No,
have
No,
anything.
you
I
can
wasn't
come on now.
gonna
This was the table discussion.
Yeah, no, I think that's just right. I think that, like you're saying, it's like seeing people as people first, right? And even more than that, seeing them in the image of God first, right? And being able to love them out of that rather than like be able to interact with them out of some sort of political lens or view. You know what I mean? That's not how we should first look at people. So,
Right. And I feel like it's kind of morphed into this idea that, like, in order for me to share the gospel with you, like, I gotta match your political views, or I gotta match what you think about this or
Mhm.
that. And it's like, that's just not
yeah, that's not
reality.
true. Yeah.
Like, if we think about who Jesus was, like, Jesus loved everybody.
Yeah.
And not because of what they did,
Mm-hmm.
but just because that's who he is, you know? I think that's just, like, important to remember that, like, God, like, it sounds super cliche, but God loves everybody. And so
Yeah.
who are we to be like, no, I disagree with you, so therefore I want nothing to do with you.
Right.
You know,
that's
like,
not
that's
right.
just not, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think too, like your wife says it a lot in small group, like, where is the gospel in this situation? And I was thinking about it.
Man, that's good.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Where like Natalie will ask, you know, we're going through a book called Respectable Sins.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you want to be convicted. Ooh.
holy
Yeah.
cow. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
You have it?
I do. Yeah.
Might read it after you.
Okay,
If you're
yeah,
okay with
uh-huh, yeah.
that.
But she'll commonly ask, where's the gospel in X situation?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about it last night in the sense of, like, you know, well, where is the gospel in this political unrest,
Mm.
or even just some of the things that are going on in town here?
Mhm.
Where or how can I apply the gospel to
Mhm.
my interactions with everyone?
Hmm.
And
It's a really good thought.
yeah,
Wow.
and you know, yeah, it's just continually reminding myself of that. And I think at the end of the day, like, you know, there was political unrest in, you know, when Jesus was
Mhm.
on this earth, and he didn't necessarily come to, you know, bash it down and say, oh, this is right, this is the, you know, right thing.
Mhm.
But he came to, you know,
Love people through
love
it.
people, and you know, ultimately die for us out
Yeah.
of love.
Amen.
So I think there is a fine line there, but yeah, continually asking myself, like, okay, where is the gospel in this situation? I have
That's
found
good.
is really important.
Yeah.
So,
I think it provides
Thanks, Natalie.
clarity. Yeah, it provides clarity too,
Mhm.
because you're able to see things more through the lens of, like, okay, this is like how Jesus, like, created things, and this is
Mhm.
like what he's calling me to. And
Mhm.
when you see, like, this is the gospel in it, it kind of takes you out of your own, like, okay, my way,
Mhm.
you know. I think that's so important. I
Yeah.
think that's huge.
Mhm.
Well, I think you have to remember too, like in Jesus' day, there was a lot of political unrest.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
This was,
Sure.
this was the nation of Israel living under the iron fist of the Roman emperor.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
I thi-
still are a country who lives under a country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're generally free, but you know, we're not free to do whatever. And
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's also important to remember, like, you know, especially as we have an election coming up, whose kingdom are we trying to build?
Mm. Amen.
You know, I've seen
on.
I've seen a lot of posts of, like, you know, oh, we have to take back America and all that kind of stuff. You know, honestly, I love this country. I
Mhm.
would do almost anything for this country.
Mhm.
But if I knew that more people would be saved by the destruction of America than bring it on,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know,
Come on,
Yeah.
dude.
and like I'm sure people are going to be like, "What? I can't believe you're calling for the destruction of America." Everything's going to be taken out of context.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to get canceled or whatever, like that kind of stuff. Sorry,
InHaus canceled.
sorry guys,
Thanks,
your
Jason.
podcast just got canceled.
Bummer.
But it's like, in the reality, what's the greater good? Jesus didn't come to build a kingdom on earth,
Yeah,
and so why are we trying to fight for a kingdom on earth?
for sure.
Man.
So
That's real.
now, if we can have the gospel and America, sure,
Sure,
awesome.
great. Yeah,
But I'm going to choose the gospel over the U.S.
Right.
amen, for
So,
sure. And that's
yeah.
just right.
And I think it's important to know, and I said this before on the podcast, like everybody's looking for a solution, everyone's looking for a right answer, and it's like that's not going to happen until Jesus returns and makes things right. Because there's just that's the result of sin is pride, and at the core of all of this is pride.
Mhm.
And it's like Jesus is the only person who can make things right, and that's the kingdom, like you said, that we're trying to build is the Lord. And I think just walking with that mindset. Not in a mindset that like, oh, I don't care. Like I'm building Jesus' kingdom, so nothing here on earth phases me.
Right.
But like,
Right.
but like having that at the forefront, like
Yeah.
For sure.
this is what I'm trying to do, and here's how I can do that around the people who are around me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that is wow. That's really good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
So
Thanks, Jason.
thanks for letting me join you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excited to have you back.
Where can you mentioned Facebook earlier? Are you on other socials? Do you have like a guitar amp building?
I do have a Instagram. I'm not on there much. I
That's
think
okay.
it's JDP Amps.
Okay.
Okay.
I do have
JDP. Do you have a theme song?
officially my company name is JDP Amplifiers.
Sweet.
So I have a website at jdpamplifiers.com.
Sweet.
There you go.
Check
And
it out,
I also
check
have
it
a
out,
Facebook
check it out.
page. I am not. I mean, I spend time on social media, but I don't really keep those up. So
That's okay.
they're a little outdated, but I do exist. I'm here.
Yeah.
So
You see him right here.
Here he
Hi,
is.
guys.
He's here.
For
Thanks
you
for
listeners,
coming on.
you don't see him, but you hear him.
All right.
All right,
See you guys next week
on the flippity flip.
on the flippity flip.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
That was really good.
That was sweet.